Our last example, example 7, we need to find the center, vertices, foci, and graph. Sounds easy enough, but we have a problem here. This is given to me in general form, and I need to put it in one of these two forms here. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by completing the square. You need to watch that video over completing the square if you haven't already to help with this. So what I need to do is I need to put my x's together, put my y's together, and move that 4 over. So I have 9x squared plus 18x plus y squared minus 4y equals -4. Just rearranged and subtracted that 4 over. So now with this one specifically, I want my a to be 1 and it's 9. So I need to pull that 9 out. That will leave me with x squared plus 2x. And now I need to leave some room. Plus, since this y squared already has an a of 1, it's fine. But leave some room. And, well, I didn't mean to add the 1. But we need to figure out what gets added into these spots right here. Okay. So we do that by using that b over 2 squared. Here my b is 2, so 2 over 2 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other, but be careful here because I'm not adding 1 to this side. What am I actually adding? I am adding 9. Because if you distribute this 9 back in, we get 9 times 1 to give me 9. Be careful. What are we going to add in here? Well, my b is -4. So -4 divided by 2 is -2, and -2 squared is 4. Now, because we didn't pull anything out of our y's, adding 4 is adding 4. Okay, but let's factor this. We've got 9 times what multiplies to 1 but adds up to 2. That's 1 and 1. So x plus 1 squared, or that's the same as 2 over 2, plus what multiplies to 2 but adds up to a -4, and that's -2 and -2. So we have y minus 2 squared, which was -4 divided by 2. And that's going to equal -4 and 4 cancel. This equals 9. Okay, last step, this has to equal 1. So I'm going to divide everything by that 9. 9 over 9 cancel. You can leave this as x plus 1 squared, but for visual purposes, I'm going to put that over 1. Plus, can't do anything here, so y minus 2 squared over 9, and that equals 1. So we did all of that to finally start answering the questions that they have given me. Okay, first, not really dependent on my answers here. But first, I do want to identify what my major axis is. Always start here because we have 2 versions of our formula. We need to know which one we're using. So my major axis is parallel to the which axis? A is always the largest. And so if A is under my Y, it's parallel to my Y axis. So we need to keep that in mind. Okay. So now from here, we can actually start answering what we need. We need the center. We need our vertices, which are our major vertices, and our foci. Okay, well, center is given to me. The center is your HK, and your HK is what's in parentheses. Remember, always inside opposite, right? So +1 is a -1. -2 is a +2. So this is my H, this is my K. Now to find vertices and foci, you can do this one of two ways. I personally like the graph, but it does seem like most people like the formula. So let me go over formulas, and then I'll kind of show you how I would use the graph. Because we're parallel to the Y, I am using this column of information. And I have formulas right here for all of my points that I need. So if my vertice is H, comma, K plus or minus A, let's write this right here, I guess. We have H, comma, K plus or minus A. And my foci is H, comma, K plus or minus C. H, comma, K plus or minus C. Okay. So we need to figure out, honestly, what my A, B, and C are, right? So coming over here to the side, let's figure out A, B, and C from this information here. A squared is always the bigger number. So if this is my A squared, then A is 3. So I can figure out this one now. I have my H, K, and now my A, but we'll keep going. This one here is my B squared. So if B squared is 1, then B is 1. So let's use B squared plus C squared equals A squared to find my C so I can find my foci. B squared is 1, don't know C squared, and A squared's 9. Subtract that, and we get 8. If I take, let's go with the color. If I take the square root, that is 4 and 2, which is 2 and 2. There's my pair. So this is 2 square root 2. Okay, now I have everything I need to answer the questions that they have given me. If my formula for vertice, sorry, I'm ping-ponging everywhere, but I got my formula for vertice here. Plug in all your information. My H is -1. My K is 2. Plus or minus my A of 3. So my two vertices are -1, comma, then we have 2 plus 3, so 5. -1, 2 minus 3 to get -1. My foci is almost identical. My H is still -1. My K is still 2. But now we will do plus or minus my C. And this does have to be simplified when you put it in my math lab. So 2 square root 2. So that means we get -1, comma, 2 plus square root 2. And -1, comma, 2 minus square root 2. So those are the 3 questions it asks for. So now we can graph it. And I personally kind of like to use graph to find these points too. Starting with my center at -1, 2. Then I'm going to use my A, and because I know it is parallel to the Y, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 units up for my major vertice and 1, 2, 3 units down my second major vertex, which is at -1, 5, which we got, and at -1, -1, which we also got. So you can either use this formula or just plot and use your A, B, and C to figure out what that ordered pair is. My B is 1. So from C, I'm going to go left 1 for lowercase mv and right 1 for lowercase mv. So really, here is my ellipse. I don't need my focus to draw the ellipse. Here is my ellipse here, but it does want that in the graph as well. So if we do square root 8 or 2 square root 8, or 2 square root 2, we get 2.8. This is about 2.8. So from that center, I'm going to go up 2.8, and I can't make it as accurate as I could because they're so close together, and down 2.8, which is again as close as we can get without actually being on top of each other. I know this is already a long lesson, but we have one more bonus question that's going to help us go forward. And it says, last lesson we talked about how we knew that the equation x squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 6y plus 12 equals 0 was a circle by just looking at it. What 3 characteristics made this a circle? Well, if you look back in your notes, there's 3 things, right? We had both x and y squared. They had the same sign. They were both positive, and they had the same coefficient because it's 1x squared and 1y squared. So now, what characteristics from this one here makes this one an ellipse? And you can see that it is almost really, really close together. They both still have an x squared and a y squared. They're both still positive, positive x squared, positive y squared. And again, that would still work if it was negative x squared minus y squared. They have to have the same sign. But what's different is now they don't have the same coefficients. They still have a 1y squared, but now I'm comparing a 9 and a 1 versus a 1 and a 1. So because these x and y's aren't the same, that's what makes it an ellipse, which should make sense. That's what's stretching it in one of our 2 directions. So to answer here, what makes this an ellipse is first, both x squared and y squared. If it doesn't, that's a parabola. Number 2, same signs. So we have a positive x squared and a positive y squared. If they are different signs, that's going to be a hyperbola. And then lastly, now, instead of them having the same coefficients, now they have different coefficients. And I guess we can be more specific on x squared and y squared. So circle and ellipse have very similar characteristics, but kind of knowing about the shape, this should make sense. Both x and y squared, both same signs, same coefficient as a circle because it's equal distance around. Different coefficients is what makes it either elongate along that y-axis or elongate along that x-axis.